Alright, so what's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to show you how to replace the rear rotors and brake pads on your second gen Fusion. Now recently I took my car to have it inspected and it actually failed because my back brake pads were low. Now I've known this, they've told me the last 2 or 3 times, it's just something I've kept putting off. But now I'm at the point where my car's got to get inspected, so I'm going to go ahead and get it fixed. So the dealership quoted me $405.19 to replace the pads and resurface the rotors. So not new rotors, they're just going to resurface the old ones. $405. Now this project should take anybody that's sort of familiar with cars less than an hour. Like now the parts for this cost about 150 bucks. That's pretty standard if you go to AutoZone, Advance, O'Reilly's around the same price. And if you're familiar with cars at all, this will probably take you less than an hour. It's really not difficult, and I'm gonna cover some steps that I noticed were missing in a few other videos. So before we get started, if you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button, especially if you're a Fusion owner, help this channel grow so we can get that good information out there. Remember to leave your comments and feedback in the comment section below. So without further ado, let's get started. So in order to change out your pads and rotors, there's a few tools you'll need. You'll need something to take your tires off, a 7mm Allen key or a bit if you have one, and a 15mm either wrench or a socket, and a flathead screwdriver. I do recommend you should wear gloves when you're doing this because your hands will get pretty dirty. But other than that, that's all you need. So now let's get to it. Now for the first step, of course, you want to have your car where you're going to work on it. You want to get in the car and turn on the brake service mode. This will allow you to service the rear brakes much easier without any special tools or equipment. All right, so now let's get in the car and get that done. All right, so to put the car in service mode, you're just gonna get in, you're gonna take your key, you're gonna turn it to the on position. So don't start the car, but just to the on mode. So now, again, I got my key in the on position. I'm gonna press down the gas, and I'm gonna push down on my parking brake. Now while I'm doing that, I'm going to turn the car off and then turn it back on. And what you get is you'll get that warning message and this little light up here that flashes, letting you know that the car is now in service mode. Alright, so now with that done, we're going to go ahead and jack the car up. Now if you don't have a lift, you want to jack the car up to a good working height and remember to support it with jack stands. Like do not rely on just a floor jack to support your car. If it's going to be up in the air and you're going to be under it, and any part of you is going to be under it, make sure you support it with jack stands. Now in my case, I like to leave the floor jack under it, but it's being supported with the jack stands. So you'll probably see both in the shop, but the car is sitting on the jack stands. Then of course, you're going to go up to your front wheels and chalk them. And you can either use actual wheel chalks, piece of wood. I've got some 2x4s. Now we're going to do that just as a precaution to help keep the car from moving forward. So now that we've got the car lifted up on jack stands and the wheels chalked, and we've already put the car in maintenance mode, now we can get started. So of course we need to take off the wheels. With the wheel off, this is what you'll be looking at. It's actually a really simple process, but we're going to start off by taking a flathead screwdriver and removing this little spring here. And that's it right there. Now the kit I bought came with a new one of these, so you can throw this away or you can keep it. It's up to you. Now next we're going to get ready to remove the brake caliper. Now the bolts to get to those are actually covered by these little plastic caps. I see the caps right here. So these you can just use your fingers, pull these off, and they come off. We're going to remove the second one. Now for this next step, we're going to remove the bolts to hold the calipers on. Now in another video that I watched, the guy suggested it's a T45 torque spit. Now I'm not sure about his car, but on this 2015, it's actually not a torque spit, it's just a regular hex spit. Alright, so this is the bolt that you're trying to take out of the caliper. As you can see, this is not a torque spit, it's actually just a regular hex spit. Now this is a T45 torque spit. Now it will fit, but there is some play in it, and I wouldn't really recommend using this. Now this is a 7mm hex key. And as you can see, it actually fits perfectly. Now, if you're like me, you don't have a 7mm bit. It seems to be a bit of an odd size, but you can break it loose with the Allen wrench. Now, what I did, instead of using the Allen key to take it all the way off, I used the Allen key to break it free, and then I used another bit that was pretty close to take it all the way off with my impact. It's kind of speed up the process. But you definitely don't want to break it free initially with anything that's going to have that play in it. So from there, both bolts are off. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a flathead screwdriver, kind of just loosen the caliper up and then it'll come right off. And what I'm gonna do is take the blade of the screwdriver and just stick it on the pad and just push it on a little bit. And I'm doing this just to compress the piston just enough so that the pad will come loose. You may have seen it actually moved because then it comes right off. Now with this off, with your brake caliper off, you don't want this to dangle on the brake line. The brake line is not meant to support this. So you can either tie it out of the way with some string or zip tie or whatever you have, or in my case, I'm just gonna set it on this knuckle here so it's out of the way. And it'll be fine sitting right there. There's no pressure on it, it's not hanging by anything, and it'll allow us to get to what we need to get to. So now with the caliper removed, we set it on the knuckle in the back so it's not gonna fall. I do want to take a minute to point out your brake pads. The one in the back has this little clip on it. So your new one should have the same thing. And let me get one of the new ones to show you the comparison. And you can see where the line is where it was rubbing on the rotor. Here's the new ones. Again, they came pre-installed with the clip on it, but that clip just sits in there if it does fall out. Here are the new ones. So there you can see the difference. So as you can see, it's a pretty big difference between the two pads. Now I will say this car has 95,000 miles on it, and this is the first time I've had to replace the pads or do any real maintenance work to it. Now a lot of that's because I did used to do a lot of highway driving. So my commutes were an hour to and from work. And now it's a little bit different. So that's part of the reason why I haven't had to change my brake pads up until now. And now if all you're doing is replacing the brake pads because you didn't let yours get as bad as mine did, you can skip this next part. But next I'm going to actually pull the bracket off so I can pull the rotor, and I'm going to replace that as well. Now on the back of the caliper bracket, there are two 15mm bolts holding it on. Now after you get those two bolts removed, you can just lift up on the caliper bracket and it'll come right off. And at this point, there's nothing holding the rotor on, so it should slide right off. Now in most cases, because of age and rust and wear, you're going to need to hit the caliper with either a hammer or a mallet or something to kind of free it loose and knock some of that rust off, and then it'll pull right off. So the two bolts you're looking for, there's one here, and then one right above it, right here. There's not a lot of space here. And you also may notice in the background my blue Steeder springs, which I installed and did a video on. So if you haven't seen that video, definitely check it out. Now with the two bolts removed, like I said, the caliper bracket will just pull right off. We set that to the side. Now at this point, there's nothing holding the rotor on, so it should just pull off. But as you see, if I pull on it, nothing's happening. So what happens is over time, these things rust together, kind of locking this thing on here. So you will need to hit it with either a mallet or a hammer to get it off. And since we're not going to be reusing this anyway, either one will do the job. Hey, all right, so a lot of rust fell off and I saw the rotor move, which means it should be ready to come off. Just like that. It was just that pile of rust. So of course, here's a little side-by-side comparison. Just be sure to double check, make sure all the dimensions are the same. If they're off, you may have gotten the wrong one, like I did, and actually had to run back up to the parts store to get this new one. Now before I get this on, you can actually see how the rust kind of builds up behind the rotor, and this is what causes it to stick. So you may want to spray it down with some WD-40 or something. But from now, we're just going to slide the rotor head on. Like I said, the rotor head slides right on. Alright, so now with the rotor on, we're going to go ahead and put the caliper bracket back on, tighten those two bolts, and just reverse everything that we just did. Excluding the fact that I had to go back to the parts store because they gave me the wrong rotors, this whole project shouldn't take you more than an hour. You just have to undo all your steps. And the last thing you have to do is take your car out of service mode. So I'm going to go ahead and button this up and then show you how to take your car out of service mode. And one thing I wanted to mention before we go inside is when you are reinstalling your calipers, don't forget about your little plastic clips that cover the bolts or the spring that goes on it before you put your wheel back on. So now let's go to the inside of the car. You get in the car, you notice you still get this warning message letting you know that the brakes are still in maintenance mode. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the car on. Don't start it. Hold down the gas pedal. My foot's on the gas pedal. And pull up on the e-brake. And then while you do this, turn the car off and then turn it back to the on position. And as you can see, my little icon up top has gone. And of course, I'd recommend testing it out a few times just to make sure it works. And if you're used to these cars, you know there's an audible sound where you can actually hear it engaging. All right, so there we go. It looks like we're all good. All right, so that's it, guys. So hopefully everything went according to plan. I want to double check your work area. Make sure you didn't forget any of those little plastic clips or that spring that goes on the outside of the caliper. And of course, you want to test your brakes out with some slow, hard stops before you get on the highway and you actually really need them. So, and as you can see, this saves a lot of money. Ford quoted me $409 for this project. There are very few tools that you need, and I spent less than $150 in parts. So definitely save yourself the $300+ do it yourself. So thank you guys for watching my video. Please like, comment, subscribe. Y'all have a nice day.